Mercedes-Benz just dropped a bombshell that has the entire car market in shock, and no one saw this coming. The German luxury giant, known for its precision engineering and timeless prestige, has made a move that flips the script on not only its rivals but the entire future of the auto industry. For decades, Mercedes has been the benchmark of luxury sedans, SUVs, and performance icons. But now, the brand has shaken its own foundation with a decision that screams disruption. This isn't just about a new model or a flashy concept car. This is about Mercedes rewriting its entire strategy, sending ripple effects through every competitor from BMW to Tesla to Toyota. The announcement was bold, almost ruthless, and the timing couldn't be more dramatic. What makes this so shocking is how Mercedes has essentially taken a wrecking ball to long-standing expectations of what a luxury car brand should be. Instead of quietly easing into change like its rivals, it dropped a straight-up statement of intent. The old playbook is gone. And the way the industry reacted tells you everything. Tesla fans are panicking, legacy automakers are scrambling, and Wall Street is buzzing with nervous energy. Mercedes has made it clear that it's not going to just survive the auto market's brutal transformation, it's going to lead it, and anyone who can't keep up is going to be left behind. The key detail here is that Mercedes isn't just talking about electric cars or digital cockpits anymore. That's old news. What they've revealed strikes at the heart of pricing, technology, and luxury identity all at once. Imagine a company famous for six-figure price tags suddenly flipping its stance and making moves that put pressure on affordable automakers. Imagine a brand that built its empire on exclusivity now using cutting-edge strategy to dominate mass markets without losing its crown of luxury. That's the bombshell. This isn't just a new chapter, it's an entirely new book, and it's got every automaker from Detroit to Tokyo wide awake at night. Mercedes-Benz bombshell move was centered on something nobody expected. A radical pricing and technology shakeup that directly challenges both budget automakers and premium rivals. For years, the luxury car game was simple. Mercedes sat at the top, charging premium prices, while cheaper brands fought for volume. But now, Mercedes has shattered that formula by announcing a sweeping lineup of next-generation EVs and hybrids that won't just be for the elite few. They're aiming for mainstream buyers, with pricing strategies that undercut Tesla, outmaneuver BMW, and even put Toyota and Hyundai on notice. This isn't Mercedes playing defense. This is Mercedes going on the offensive, breaking its own mold to expand its dominance. But pricing is only half the story. The real shockwave came from Mercedes unveiling its next-gen battery tech and software platform that promises longer range, faster charging, and a fully integrated AI-driven ecosystem inside the cabin. We're not talking about gimmicks here. We're talking about cars that learn your habits, predict your routes, adapt your comfort settings in real time, and even integrate with your home energy system. This is where Mercedes slammed Tesla hardest, by showing that it's not just catching up on tech, it's leapfrogging ahead. While Elon Musk's empire has been distracted by controversies and stalled innovation, Mercedes has quietly built an arsenal that redefines luxury in the EV era. And the rivals? Absolute chaos. BMW's board members are reportedly furious, seeing Mercedes' announcement as a direct strike at their core 3 Series and 5 Series buyers. Audi is scrambling, trying to spin its EV strategy to look more competitive, while Toyota, long hesitant to dive headfirst into full EV commitment, now faces the pressure of a luxury brand encroaching on its volume turf. The biggest irony? Mercedes is now positioned to be both the king of luxury and a mass-market disruptor, something no one thought possible. Tesla, without question, took the hardest hit from Mercedes-Benz announcement. For years, Tesla thrived on being the symbol of innovation, long range, sleek tech, futuristic cabins, and of course the prestige of being the EV brand. But Mercedes just pulled the rug out from under them. By unveiling EVs with longer range, faster charging, and a software system designed to outthink Tesla's autopilot, Mercedes essentially declared, "We can do luxury and tech better than the so-called disruptor." And here's the kicker. Mercedes has the dealership networks, the service infrastructure, and the century-old brand trust that Tesla simply doesn't. That's why this hit Tesla like a freight train. Investors are rattled, analysts are rethinking Tesla's valuation, and even die-hard fans are quietly admitting that Mercedes may have just outplayed the king of EV hype. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, American automakers are feeling the heat in an entirely different way. Ford, GM, and even Stellantis were banking on a slower transition, playing catch-up with EVs while still milking profits from trucks and SUVs. But Mercedes' bombshell move makes their strategies look outdated overnight. Imagine this. While Ford struggles to make the F-150 Lightning profitable, Mercedes announces EV SUVs with premium badges and competitive pricing that appeal not only to luxury buyers but also to everyday families looking for style and range. That's a nightmare scenario for Detroit, because it puts them in a lose-lose, undercut on technology by Mercedes and undercut on price by Asian automakers at the same time. And speaking of Asia, the ripple effects there are massive. Chinese EV giants like BYD and NIO, which have been steamrolling global markets with affordable EVs, now face a European titan willing to fight them on their turf. Mercedes has the brand recognition in China that most Western automakers lack, and by slashing costs and innovating on batteries, they just sent a direct message: we're not leaving this market to you. In Japan, Toyota and Honda are being squeezed even harder. Toyota, with its cautious hybrid-first strategy, suddenly looks too slow, while Honda's EV efforts are still too fragmented to challenge a brand as powerful as Mercedes. The shock isn't just about Mercedes moving forward, it's about how fast it has pulled the entire industry's timeline forward. Consumers, of course, are at the center of this storm, and their reaction is nothing short of explosive. For years, Mercedes was seen as a dream purchase, something aspirational, often out of reach for the average buyer. But now, with pricing strategies that target broader audiences while still carrying the three-pointed star badge, demand is skyrocketing in ways even Mercedes didn't fully anticipate. Dealerships are reporting record inquiries, waitlists are growing, and online forums are flooded with conversations like, "Wait, I can actually afford a Mercedes EV?" That psychological shift is the real power play here. Mercedes has transformed from being just a luxury icon into a realistic option for the upper-middle market. This has also sparked a cultural shockwave. Traditional Mercedes buyers, those loyalists who paid premium prices for exclusivity, are split. Some love that the brand is expanding its empire, seeing it as proof that Mercedes is leading the new era of mobility. Others feel betrayed, worried that opening the doors wider will dilute the luxury aura. But Mercedes seems unfazed. They know that redefining prestige in the 21st century means being both accessible and untouchably advanced at the same time. In other words, they're not chasing exclusivity anymore, they're chasing dominance. And here's where the timing comes into play, because Mercedes didn't make this move randomly. Behind the scenes, the company saw a perfect storm forming: Tesla stumbles, regulatory pressure in Europe, growing EV competition in China, and US automakers struggling with profitability. Mercedes picked now because it's the window when disruption hurts competitors the most. By dropping this bombshell today, they've forced the entire industry to respond on Mercedes's terms. Every rival, from BMW to GM, now has to rethink their next product launch, their pricing strategy, and their tech roadmap. Mercedes just seized control of the narrative, and that's the part nobody's talking about enough. This move by Mercedes doesn't just shake the car industry today, it rewrites the trajectory of where the entire industry is heading tomorrow. Automakers can no longer afford to take the slow, steady approach to electrification and digitalization. Mercedes has just set a new benchmark that forces everyone else to either speed up or get left behind. Design language will shift as well. Mercedes's sleek, tech-forward EV silhouettes will become the new template rivals desperately try to imitate, just as the S-Class once dictated luxury sedan trends for decades. Even supply chains are being jolted. Battery suppliers, chip makers, and software developers are suddenly scrambling to align themselves with Mercedes, knowing that where Mercedes goes, the rest of the industry eventually follows. But here's the twist: this bold gamble comes with hidden risks that could either solidify Mercedes's dominance or leave it dangerously exposed. By slashing prices and chasing volume, Mercedes risks eroding the very exclusivity that made its badge so powerful. If too many consumers suddenly see a Mercedes in every driveway, does the prestige begin to fade? Then there's the profitability puzzle. Luxury automakers thrive on fat margins, and cutting into those margins to compete with Tesla and Toyota could backfire if sales volume doesn't scale fast enough. Not to mention the massive investment required to pull this off, billions poured into battery tech, AI platforms, and global retooling. If supply chain disruptions or economic downturns hit, Mercedes could find itself stretched thin at the worst possible time. And yet, that's what makes this bombshell so fascinating. Mercedes isn't playing it safe. It's not protecting its legacy, it's putting its legacy on the line to secure the future. This is the kind of high-stakes gamble that either cements a company as the undisputed king of the industry or leaves it vulnerable to hungrier rivals ready to pounce. Right now, All eyes are on whether Mercedes can execute at the scale and speed it's promising. If they can, the future of cars won't be defined by Tesla, Toyota, or Ford, it'll be defined by Mercedes. Behind closed doors, the countermoves are already being plotted, and the tension inside boardrooms is at an all-time high. BMW, for instance, is in panic mode. Their EV rollout was supposed to position them as the balanced choice between performance and luxury, but Mercedes just blew past them with a more aggressive range, better tech promises, and now, shockingly, more competitive prices. Executives at BMW are scrambling to speed up their new E-Class program, but rushing technology always carries risk, and insiders fear the brand may stumble under the pressure to respond. Audi isn't faring much better. With its e-tron lineup failing to generate the buzz it once promised, Audi's leadership now faces an ugly reality. Mercedes has stolen the spotlight, and they're left trying to figure out how to make their EVs feel exciting again. In the US, General Motors and Ford are quietly panicked as well. GM's Ultium platform was supposed to carry the company into the EV age, but now it looks like a step behind compared to Mercedes's bold software and AI integration. Ford, on the other hand, has invested heavily in EV trucks and SUVs, but their limited production capacity and high costs make them vulnerable to Mercedes swooping in with a luxury EV SUV that not only appeals to premium buyers but also competes directly with the top trims of mainstream models. Even Stellantis, with brands like Jeep and Chrysler, looks unprepared. The company's strategy relies on electrifying heritage models, but Mercedes just redefined the battlefield to be about cutting-edge tech, not nostalgia. And in Asia, the tension is just as fierce. Toyota, despite its dominance in hybrids, now risks being seen as behind the curve as Mercedes charges ahead with fully electric luxury at scale. Honda and Nissan are scrambling for relevance in a space where they've already fallen behind. Meanwhile, Chinese EV titans like BYD and XPeng are carefully watching Mercedes's every move, because while they've grown strong in affordability, they've never been able to rival Mercedes's brand prestige. Now, with Mercedes cutting deeper into their market share with competitive pricing, even they face the possibility of losing their edge in territories they thought they owned. This war is already beginning to reshape consumer loyalty and brand trust worldwide in ways that automakers didn't anticipate. For decades, car buyers stuck to brand identities passed down like family traditions. BMW for driving enthusiasts, Toyota for reliability, Tesla for tech-forward dreamers, and Mercedes for pure prestige. But that brand loyalty is cracking, and Mercedes is the one hammering away at it. By dropping prices while delivering bleeding-edge tech, Mercedes is suddenly pulling buyers from every corner. Tesla fans who are tired of delays and controversies, Toyota drivers ready to upgrade to something more futuristic, and even BMW loyalists who now question whether their brand can keep pace. It's not just stealing customers, it's rewriting what brand loyalty even means in the modern auto industry. And this isn't confined to luxury markets either. In places like Southeast Asia, South America, and Africa, where buyers have traditionally leaned toward affordable Japanese or Chinese cars, the Mercedes badge is now becoming a realistic aspiration instead of a distant dream. That shift is seismic, because if consumers in emerging markets start seeing Mercedes as both attainable and technologically superior, then the traditional hold of Toyota, Honda, and BYD begins to erode. That's not just competition, that's cultural realignment. For many, owning a Mercedes no longer represents elitism, it represents being part of the future. But this rapid shift also sparks a deeper question. What happens to trust if Mercedes stumbles? Consumers are pouring new faith into the brand, assuming the promises of long-range batteries, seamless AI, and affordable prestige will hold true. If Mercedes delivers, loyalty solidifies like never before. But if cracks appear, delays, glitches, or quality issues, then this surge of trust could backfire spectacularly. The geopolitical and economic ripple effects of Mercedes forcing this transition are enormous, and they go far beyond the car market itself. Countries that once relied on a slow, predictable automotive cycle are suddenly under pressure to adapt. Take Europe, for example. The EU has already pushed aggressive timelines for phasing out combustion engines, but Mercedes's bold leap accelerates that pressure. Governments will now be forced to invest faster in charging infrastructure, grid expansion, and battery supply chains, because Mercedes has just created consumer demand that politicians can't ignore. What was once a policy-driven EV shift has suddenly become market-driven, and that changes everything. In the US, the timing couldn't be more disruptive. With political debates raging over EV subsidies, union struggles, and the survival of Detroit's automakers, Mercedes's move essentially calls America's bluff. If a German luxury automaker can offer competitive EVs at scale and at price points attractive to mainstream buyers, then Washington's excuses about domestic challenges start to look weaker. It puts immense pressure on policymakers to decide: double down on supporting American carmakers, or risk letting Mercedes and other foreign brands dominate the EV transition in the States. Either way, it tilts the balance of economic power. And then there's China, the world's biggest EV market and the battlefield everyone is watching. Chinese automakers like BYD, NIO, and XPeng were counting on their affordability advantage and home turf dominance. But Mercedes just dropped a direct challenge by blending premium prestige with competitive pricing. If Mercedes secures strong partnerships for local battery production and digital services in China, it could erode the dominance of homegrown brands and trigger new trade tensions. Don't forget, Beijing has no intention of letting foreign companies run unchecked, and Mercedes's aggressive play could spark regulatory battles, tariffs, or even strategic blockades in the EV supply chain. On the global stage, this bombshell has essentially weaponized the car market. Lithium, cobalt, nickel, every resource tied to EV batteries is about to become even more contested, and nations will jostle harder to secure them. Mercedes didn't just shock automakers, it may have just set off a new phase of the resource race, one where cars are as much about geopolitics as they are about engineering. If Mercedes's gamble pays off, it could cement the brand's empire for decades, but if the risks collapse on them, it could unravel everything. Think about it. Mercedes has just shifted its entire identity from being a niche luxury powerhouse to becoming a global EV titan. That means the margin for error is razor thin. One major supply chain failure, one widespread software glitch, or one public backlash over quality could instantly turn this bold move into a historic blunder. Unlike before, when Mercedes could lean on its heritage of prestige to ride out storms, this time the stakes are higher because they've promised not just luxury, but accessibility and dominance all at once. Break that promise, and the damage to trust could be catastrophic. And yet, the potential upside is staggering. If Mercedes succeeds, it won't just be another car company, it will be the standard by which all automakers are measured. Its vehicles will set the benchmark for what people expect from range, AI integration, and luxury that doesn't come at impossible prices. Governments will look to Mercedes as the template for policy planning, suppliers will prioritize it over rivals, and consumers will view owning a Mercedes not as a symbol of wealth, but as a default choice in the EV era. That's how empires are built, not through slow adaptation, but through bold, risky leaps that scare everyone else into playing catch-up. But here's the uncomfortable truth. For every bold empire builder in history, there are countless stories of collapse. Look at Nokia in phones, Kodak in cameras, or even Tesla's current struggles. Pioneers who thought they were untouchable until the market shifted beneath their feet. Mercedes is gambling that by moving fast and striking first, it can avoid that fate. But the very speed that makes this strategy powerful also makes it dangerous. If demand doesn't scale as expected, if competitors adapt quicker than predicted, or if global politics choke the supply of critical resources, Mercedes could find itself trapped in a strategy too big to walk back. Let's imagine the collapse scenarios first, because that's the darker side nobody wants to talk about, but it's absolutely possible. One of the biggest threats to Mercedes's grand plan is the battery bottleneck. Yes, they've announced next-gen battery tech with incredible range and fast charging, but scaling battery production is a beast. If global demand outpaces supply, as it already has in some regions, Mercedes could be left with sky-high costs and long delivery delays. That would not only frustrate customers but also destroy the competitive advantage they just promised. Nothing kills hype faster than waitlists stretching into years. Then comes the software gamble. Mercedes is betting big on AI-driven platforms, predictive driving, and full digital ecosystems. But software isn't like engines or suspension systems. It's messy, complex, and prone to bugs. A single glitch in autonomous driving, a major cybersecurity breach, or a recall tied to faulty updates could turn Mercedes's cutting-edge promise into a PR nightmare. Consumers expect perfection from a brand like Mercedes, and the tolerance for error is far lower than it is for Tesla or other younger players. And don't overlook the economic fragility of this play. Cutting prices to chase volume puts Mercedes in a dangerous balancing act. If global recessions hit, consumer demand for even cheaper EVs could rise, leaving Mercedes squeezed between budget automakers on the low end and ultra-exotic luxury brands on the high end. In that scenario, Mercedes risks being stuck in the middle, not cheap enough to dominate volume, and not exclusive enough to hold its old prestige. That's the kind of identity crisis that can break a brand. But perhaps the biggest collapse scenario lies in geopolitical pushback. By trying to dominate in China, the US, and Europe all at once, Mercedes has painted a target on its back. Trade wars, tariffs, or restrictions on foreign automakers could cripple its global rollout. Imagine if Beijing favors BYD and blocks Mercedes's aggressive pricing, or if Washington slaps tariffs to protect Ford and GM. Suddenly the empire-building dream gets cut off at the knees. Now let's flip the coin and imagine the vision if Mercedes actually pulls this off flawlessly, because if they do, the entire car market, and even the way we live with cars, will be reshaped forever. Picture this: Mercedes becomes not just a luxury automaker, but the default EV provider worldwide.